Well, it is World Cup today, but that's not what we're talking about. Um, that'll be plenty of stuff for Sean and the gang to talk about later. But we're talking about basketball, and specifically last night's game at Madison Square Garden, where the Spurs were up 29 points, 20 in the fourth quarter, and found a way to lose it. Or did the Knicks find a way to win it? Or was it a combination? What do you think, Matt?
When you are up almost 30 points in a game like that, you lose a basketball game. I don't think there's any way around that. Look, they had every opportunity in the world, even down to the wire. It took that last second tap in for them to lose that basketball game. It's just it's unfathomable. It's a position that you can't put yourself in. It's a position that you don't expect this San Antonio team really throughout what they've done in the playoffs to do. Like you didn't expect this from them. They have the talent to come back from down 3-1, but when you wilt like that in that moment in that environment, then it makes you it's tough to believe that they're going to come back and be able to recover from. I mean, what is a just a catastrophic collapse last night?
I think that from my standpoint, the second half, when they started launching threes, and you're like, whoa, 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 you know, that works in the first half.
Hmm.
But the theory of the case now is to hold your lead,
Yeah.
milk the clock, go down, don't make a shot until it's like you're at 5 or 4 or 5 seconds on the clock. If you miss it, fine. Okay. You're not giving them more time. That's the
Hmm.
one thing that you can keep from them is time. And there was a couple of uh, areas early in the fourth quarter um, where they put up a 3 point shot. They got the rebound. They kicked it back out and shot another three. Now they could have milked 25 seconds off that clock, and they ended up playing fast, which was exactly what the Knicks needed to have.
Hmm.
And as you're to your point, they had the ball with 10 seconds left to go in the game. Why
Yeah.
did you not stand there and say, "Come, hit me"? You know, send me to the free throw line. But they didn't. They rushed it up. They missed the shot, and the Knicks stole it and got back and called the timeout. And bingo, they brought it in. Brunson got the shot. Olavabi tips it in. They win. San Antonio loses, and there's no excuse. It was a combination of, yes, they're young, but they are talented. They can play defense and offense. Two, Wembenabi was absolutely gassed at the end of the game. And three, the coaching was stupid.
Yeah, at the outset, when we first talked about this series coming into it, I said I thought that New York might have the coaching advantage. For no other reason than the result in the second half last night, you know that New York has the coaching advantage. And I mean, as good as he's been, it's no credit to Mike Brown. And it's all due blame. And like they deserve all of the blame for that San Antonio coaching staff because you don't do that for a half. Like in football, if you're up 21, at the end of the third, you're gonna sit on the ball. Like you got to make them earn the comeback. You don't make them earn the comeback when you're still running the floors, hucking up early shot clock threes, early shot clock shots in general. Like that's something that has to be addressed in the huddle in the middle of the third quarter when things don't, when things aren't working well. And there's dueling philosophies on that, which I understand is, like this philosophy and this aggressiveness got us to where we're up 29. And that's a great idea and that is really good. And you stick to your philosophy. But when you're up 20 in the fourth quarter, you shift down. Like it doesn't matter what your philosophy is, has been, or will continue to be. You are in a position where you're about to steal a second game in a row on the road to even up the series and give you home court advantage back. Also avoid going down 3-1 in this series. And you don't. You stay aggressive, and it's just a mind-boggling philosophy and call from that San Antonio coaching staff, because at some point, like, they're able to call in the huddle, and you can like flip the switch on the guys on the floor. They're a really good defensive basketball team, and they were giving the Knicks all the help they needed to get back in that game.
One of the things I thought was interesting, and to your point, we talked about shrinking the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the fourth quarter, if you know in the third quarter, it didn't work, right? In the third quarter, they were shooting threes. Nothing was dropping. And the Knicks were making a push. And yeah, you're up by 20 at the end of the quarter. But you could definitely tell the momentum had shifted. So, okay, you're there. You're like, here's the deal. Let's take it down. Let's slow it down. Let's make them earn it. They got to the free throw line quick in the fourth quarter. So everything was on their side. They had the numbers 20. They had, they got into it wasn't 5 minutes into the quarter and they were in the free throw in the penalty. So anything that happened, they were going to get 3 free throws out of it. So what I guess that perplexes me more than anything is, and I give credit to New York, they hit the shots, they made the plays. But, you just can't lose that game. You are in a NBA Finals championship for a reason, because you played well throughout the season and throughout the playoffs. How in the hell do you go and play such a stupid, and Charles Barkley was right on it. He goes, the players were stupid, the coaches were stupid. He goes, it just was. I've never seen a team play as stupid in the second half as I watched that one. And yeah. Charles is right.
I mean, like, De'Aaron Fox has played so much basketball at the highest level for the longest time. Like, you go back his days at Kentucky and where he was successful. They didn't have a very successful run in the NCAA tournament at that point in time. But he's been to the playoffs with the Kings, I believe. He's got experience in these spots. These guys have had to work to get to the NBA Finals. I mean, even if you didn't have experience coming into it, now you're at the point. Like, this is game 4 of the Finals. You've got your experience. You're baptized in the playoffs. You know what it feels like. And at some point, even if the coaches haven't pulled you to the side, they've played basketball for 20 plus years of their life. Every last one of them has. Any person who has played basketball for that amount of time knows that there's a philosophy switch that needs to come. But they didn't do that. They didn't have the ability to compose themselves or get themselves together. And it's not, you've worked, the first 3 quarters of work give you the leeway where you don't have to go knock down, shot after shot, and you don't have to go possession for possession with another really good basketball team. You got to go you got to make one for every 4 of theirs. Like, that's where you're at. And you're not able to manage that for a full quarter of basketball. It's just, it's so mind-boggling how you get to that result. And yeah, it absolutely is a case. And I mean, and it's not to take away credit from New York, because they had to play good basketball down the stretch as well. Like, there is that aspect of this, but they could have played the best basketball they had all season if San Antonio played a C game and slowed things down. They're winning that game. But they didn't slow things down. They went out there and they played a D game, and they played it fast. And it allowed New York to come back and take complete control of this series. As everybody knows, there's only been one comeback in the NBA Finals in which a team was down 3-1.
Well, the other thing, too, you just mentioned it. The most seasoned player on San Antonio's squad has the ball with 10 seconds. Why are you not standing there and begging them to hit me, come up and foul me? Because
Yeah,
he could run the clock out. He literally could have run the clock out.
and it's not a new move. You literally see it in
That's
every
in high
form.
school. You in high school they teach you that,
You dribble to the baseline and then you curl it back, so they
right?
have to essentially chase you and value.
Right.
That's what you do. You don't take
You can
the
burn
layup.
5 seconds off the clock just doing that.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a play that you're 100% correct. It will get your ass lit up if you did it in high school basketball. I mean, much less the NBA Finals.
The coach would throw you on the bench forever.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, you're not. I mean, like, yeah, you're not seeing the floor the next game if you do that in high school.
Here's the other thing, and there's a lot of things in this game. Why is Wemby on in the in that final seconds out on Brunson, leaving the total? I mean, let's just say for a second that Brunson decides not to shoot. Could have thrown that ball to Anthony Towns. Anybody, they're in the
Mhm.
paint. They got the advantage in the paint now.
Yeah,
That
that's
made no sense. You got
yeah,
your biggest, best guy for any rebound or anything. Let him take the shot.
yeah. I guess the counter argument to that is we want our best on their best. Like if I want anybody guarding their best player, it's going to be the defensive player of the year, and you believe that he has the lateral quickness to be able to stay in front of him and guard him in that moment. But you're absolutely right on the backside. It leaves you exposed to a rather significant mismatch if Jalen Brunson is able to maneuver his way around Wemby, which he has done in this series. Like it's not been easy, but he's been able to do it from time to time, and so that still is a puzzling choice. Again, it's just complete and utter game mismanagement and
Mhm.
coaching malpractice from San Antonio. It's not one that feels recoverable. Like uh, you lose this one game one, like oh okay, like yeah, you're still in it. You got a series to go, but this was game four, and you were already down 2-1. It I I just don't know how, even though you're returning home, how you're able to go home and get that momentum back.
Well, there's the old saying, just put it behind you, right?
Hmm.
You get on a plane last night, probably that game was over around 11:30 ish, something like that. And and you fly for 3.5 hours, 4 hours. So you get back to San Antonio in the wee hours of this morning. I don't know how you get on that plane and not replay the fact that we were 10 seconds away from evening this series up and really putting all the pressure on New York, even though we may have won by a point.
Hmm.
We still got out of there and we won 2 games in the Garden.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're sitting there now going, crap, we gotta win that game on Friday, Saturday, or we don't, or we're gone.
Mhm.
It's over.
And I mean, even you win that game going home, it builds the momentum. And even hypothetically, say you go home and you were to win that game. Now you're up 3-2, and you're going back to New York for game six. And the Garden goes from what it wound up being at the end of last night,
Mhm.
which was, a madhouse in, like, you got to kind of see it unleashed a little bit. And if you came back there for game six down 3-2 after being up 2-0,
Mhm.
that place is a pressure cooker. Like that thing turns into a daggum crock pot. Like there's just no you it is going to be, everyone is going to be insanely tense and anxious. And that's gone now. Like there's no feeling of that. And I guess you can still introduce a little bit of that into it if you win game five. Because like if you get into the third quarter and you have a lead in there, and it's and it's 3-2 in favor of New York, then people can maybe start to feel like, like, is San Antonio going to do it? But there's such a larger mountain that you have to climb to get back to that same place that was much more easily attainable. You know, if you played, you know, common sense basketball for a quarter.
On a totally different part of this game, Shaquille O'Neal made an observation last night, which I thought was very interesting. And he said, we never, as players, you usually don't pay attention to fans. He said if you're at the level you've played from high school to college, that you've played in environments where things get crazy, right? He said, but when he went to Los Angeles, one of the biggest problems he had was when he would when they would go down the court on the basically a court side, he would see a number of movie stars and major celebrities, which he grew up watching.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, all of a sudden, I wasn't playing basketball, for the New York. I mean, for the Lakers. These were people who were there rooting for me, and he goes, I got starstruck. And he said, there's no way you cannot look at that group of people, from Taylor Swift to Stiller, to the entire group, Seinfeld, all of those guys on the court side. And if you're San Antonio, you've got to be a little, starstruck from a standpoint of who exactly you're playing in front of.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely adds to the pressure of it. I don't know. It's just it's not as much, at least in my mind. It would be less about the people that are sitting front row, and more about that building and its history and what it is. And I mean, just to be quite honest, like Spike Lee would be more intimidating than Taylor Swift would if I was at.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that Taylor Swift is the reason that they missed the shots. And Spike would have, Spike. Remember the? I can remember I saw it. I mean, I was doing the games at that time. Spike used to have beef with a bunch of players, including Reggie Miller.
Oh yeah,
he was with the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, you can't forget the choking.
Right.
What was it? The cross thumbs he did.
Cross thumbs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely, it's like Chuck said last night, somebody on the New York side had their thumbs across the throat of San Antonio. Because as we all know, Chuck just, he really never, you never know what, how he's feeling. It's
yeah.
he just leveled them. I mean, there wasn't any nuance about it. It was just like, I sat here and watched a basketball game where people totally didn't know what the hell they were doing in the second half.
And in fairness, they deserved it. Like, the San Antonio deserves all of the criticism in the world for that performance, and I believe they'll get it. I find it hard. It'll be a little bit interesting seeing what they do going back home. It's going to be hard to see it, play out. It's tough to see that path for San Antonio where they win 3 in a row. I mean, just to be honest, because I came into this series, I said, I don't know where New York has the advantage. Apparently, New York has all of the advantages. Like, Karl-Anthony Towns has played fantastic. Jalen Brunson has been fantastic. Their forwards, I mean, OG Anunoby has stepped up, even though the guy that they gave up, what was it, like 6 first-round picks for? And Mikal Bridges has been what feels like largely non-existent in this series. It doesn't matter. Like, they work so well as a team. And, I mean, even going back to you reaching back in the files, but I talked about De'Aaron Fox and his March Madness run at Kentucky, and that it was relatively unsuccessful for the standards that that basketball team have.
Mhm.
And then you flip it to the other side and you look across from them, and you got Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges, who
Mhm.
all won titles at Villanova together. They know what it takes to be a championship
Mhm.
team. They've done it before. They've done it multiple times at the college ranks. And there is a certain aspect of sometimes you just know how to win, and these guys just kind of know how to win. So, I still am of the belief that San Antonio is the more talented basketball team of the two, but they're not the better coached one. They're not the smarter one, and they don't have the same championship pedigree that the New York Knicks do.
Well, to your point, and this is something I don't. I mean, I imagine it has happened. I don't recall in all the times that I've been involved with NBA, with the NBA, and certainly the finals. The Spurs were up heavy double digits in every one of those games. All four games they were up by heavy double digits. And when I mean heavy double, that's north of 15.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the 29 for the moment. You played four games where you had a lead of a minimum of 15 points and you still lost three of them.
Yeah,
How is that? How does that make any sense whatsoever?
yeah. It feels like it strengthens that point. Like San Antonio is when you get it really in those. I think in a weird way in the middle two quarters. That's kind of where San Antonio like they find their groove. But
Mm-hmm.
New York has done their winning in the fourth quarter. San Antonio has not been there in the fourth quarter. They have not wanted to be there in the fourth quarter. It seems like for really all four of these games. I mean, they pulled it out in game three, and that's good. But they have not been able to, play their best basketball when it comes winning time, and New York has. Again, you can build it up throughout three quarters, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
San Antonio built it up throughout three quarters. You
Right.
don't. They bought themselves the luxury that they don't have to go play their best basketball in the fourth quarter, which they have not been doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they go out there and they just put out an all-time shitter performance. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's just no other way to sum it up. Like again, I said it, but you play a C-level basketball game in that fourth quarter, and you're going home tied. But they didn't, and I don't know if they're capable of it. I don't know what it is for San Antonio. And I mentioned the championship pedigree, and
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Castle in San Antonio has it from UConn and his days of playing
Mm-hmm.
with Danny Hurley. Um,
Well,
and
that backcourt, that San Antonio has, right?
yeah,
Those are two. If you were to look at those guys and the way they played all season long, and frankly into the playoffs, that backcourt, those kids are 20 and 21 years old,
hmm
and they're playing. They're as good as any backcourting in basketball,
and I
and that's why I thought, if you look at what they did, in the game, you can't blame them. They
yeah,
did what they were supposed to do. But we talk about how young this team is, and they are. But as you pointed out a few minutes ago, there they are in the second and third quarters, and they're playing their butts off. And in the fourth quarter, they do look like a young team.
hmm yeah, and look, there's reason to believe that when you look at this San Antonio team and how young they are, like
Mm-hmm.
you could reasonably imagine that they will be in the finals at least one more time, if not a few more, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But the getting to this point and getting to this peak,
Mm-hmm.
it's not guaranteed you anything else in the future. You are
Well,
not guaranteed another finals appearance. The San Antonio team, Victor Wembanyama, Steph Castle,
mm-hmm.
Harper, all of them, they're not guaranteed another one. And what you did is you came in with what is arguably a more talented basketball team and are finding ways to lose games. It's going to be a series that, eh, if it goes the way that you think it is, they're going to be sitting back possibly in 25 years, kicking themselves. If they don't make it back, like that's a real thing. Like Oklahoma City, with what they did last year and what they were doing this
Mm-hmm.
year, you really thought that they were going to make it, right? Like you
Sure.
really thought like nothing's going to stop this team from going back to back. San
Mm-hmm.
Antonio stopped that team from going back to back as well constructed as they are. And with the salary cap and the way things are in place, it's harder to keep a good team together for a really long time uh,
Hmm.
without some concessions being made on the part of stars in terms of their annual payday.
Hmm.
Uh, but I would say if you're San Antonio, it's just disappointing. It has to be disappointing, regardless of how the series ends. I mean, if it ends in a game seven that you win at home, then all of it gets flushed away. But if you go home losers in this thing, I mean, they're going to spend it. It may take until this time next year for them to forget about this series.
Well, a lot of people forget um, that when the Bulls, right, got to the point where they kept coming close, coming close, coming close, it was Phil Jackson was an assistant coach. And when they put Phil Jackson in front, in that deal and got him going um, as the head coach, that was what got them moving for as many times. Was it 6 times they won the championship? I would not be surprised, and it usually doesn't happen, but I would not be surprised to see if San Antonio and they're a relatively conservative, team um, from an ownership standpoint and from the general manager standpoint and the whole routine. I would not be surprised if they made a coaching change.
Yeah, yeah. I
Now,
mean,
early or not, I mean, I just don't. I think that Popovich. That's the difference between Pop and the coaches that they have now. That would not have happened under Popovich. Just wouldn't have happened.
yeah, and look, Pop's still in the building, but to say, and I'm sure he still has some influence, but
Sure.
he's very clearly not not the guy that he was when he was coaching.
Right.
Um, hard for him to be with all the health stuff that he's had.
Sure.
So I almost feel like they made a coaching hire and they went about this coaching process. It almost feels like in a belief that Pop is there and Pop is guiding. Like they need somebody who can operate, I guess, separately from Greg Popovich and use him more as a sounding board and a piece of advice instead of really what almost feels like something that they're leaning on and using as a crutch with him being there. So I don't know. I do think I'm not a big fan of. I've talked about it. Like wasn't a fan of when James Franklin was fired because it felt
Yeah.
emotional, right? Like these coaches that get you to these points and these
Yeah.
peaks. It I'm not a big fan of canning them quickly,
No.
but there's when you fail to a certain extent on the biggest stage, really in the way that they've failed, in the way that they've you know really lost these games, as you mentioned, all those double digit leads
Mhm.
across all four. It's hard not to look at it and go, okay, like where is it? Because clearly the talent's there. Like we're
Yeah.
more than talented enough to be in this series. We're more than talented enough to potentially have already closed this thing out. But
Right.
we're down 3-1. What's the defining factor in that? And you would almost have to point to game planning a bit.
Yeah. And again, I'm not one of those people like you say that advocates firing coaches. That's not the way I like to see things go because I mean I've known coaches for many years and hell, Phil Jackson was on George Carl's staff and George and I were very good friends. So I get it, but the thing that a lot of people will talk about when the Heat, right, Miami, with Pat Riley there and Eric Spoelstra, and we've talked about the players going to Pat and saying, I don't know, Eric may not be the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Pat, who obviously has had championship experience, Pat just said, "Look, I don't coach the team anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
talk to Eric all the time, but I don't coach the team." And I think that's the way Pop does it. I mean, Pop is basically, "Look, I'm not gonna," because he said, he's been asked numerous times. He goes, "I wouldn't like to be second guessed when I was coach.
Yeah.
So why am I going to second guess these guys?
Yeah.
It's up for them to make that decision. I don't make those decisions. So, he is the elder statesman in the building, but that doesn't mean that, anything he does translates unless somebody picks up the phone or walks into the office and say, Coach, can you, run this through with me? I've got to decide. Now, I just fired the coach a couple of minutes ago, and I'm now going to say that I think that there will be some soul searching, and they may not fire him. Maybe he's going to learn from this. Okay,
Mhm.
maybe this is a teachable moment.
Yeah,
But yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, going back to San Antonio, that coaching staff, you can look outwardly. The matter of the fact is that they still have life, going into Game 5.
Sure,
And but
they're the
and they
favorite.
yeah, and they have 4 games
Hmm.
of a nearly identical script on the way the games have gone in terms of having leads and losing them late. They have 4 games to figure out what it is that needs to shift, where your philosophical shift, where your game planning shift is going to be, to it maybe not even not allow that to happen, but you've got to stop the severity at which it's happening. It's one thing if you let a team come back from down 5, it's been back and forth, tough all game. But man, if you're up 10, 12 points, like that's a position where you have to be able to maintain and continue to stretch, especially when you're at home.
Hmm. Well, they're going to have the post game last night. They didn't. You didn't see a lot of them talking about. I mean, and it's not. And to be fair, losing a game like that, it's not. You're not going to be able to digest what happened 10 minutes after the game's over, 20 minutes after the game's over, half an hour after the game's over.
Yeah.
So on the flight home, that's definitely, as I said, going to give them some thought. And then they get home today, they get some rest, and they're off tomorrow, and they'll go back to to practice the practice facility, and they'll sit down and they'll try to figure it out. Are they talented enough to win 3 straight games? Yeah. New York's only if they can win this game on Saturday night and go back to New York, then the pressure goes back on New York.
Yeah.
But they have to beat this. I mean, obviously, given the fact that they only, New York's one win away from the, stating the obvious. They have to win, and it's got to happen. So, anyway,
They
go ahead.
have to find themselves back in the Garden in the same spot that they were in last night, and that building will flip. Like that that's where they've got to work to get to that spot, and that's where your momentum is.
Right. All right. We got to get going here. But any final thoughts about anything that isn't? By the way, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure you do, but if you don't, World Cup is going on. Starts this afternoon, 3 o'clock. Starts in Mexico tomorrow, today, U.S. tomorrow, and Canada on on Friday. I'm sorry, on Saturday. So plenty of World Cup games going on. For those of you who want to know, you can watch the games on Fox on FS1, and then some of the games are streaming free on Tubi. It's a free app. You can download it on your phone, on your smart TV. It's a good app to have. It's got a ton of good content on it, and there will be a bunch of replays and such. So if you don't see the game, you can do it. You can also listen to the games if you can't watch them. You can listen to them for free on iHeartRadio. Take that iHeartRadio app and or Fox Sports Radio, either one, and you will be able to listen to the games for free. So that's my public service announcement for the World Cup, and it starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon in Mexico City. So it's going to be a fun month, and keep checking back here because we got a lot of people doing programs that are going to be talking serious soccer for the next month. So by all means, check us out and stay in touch because things are going to be a lot of fun here for a long time this month if you're a soccer fan. Anyway, so all right, buddy, we will step aside here, and we'll come back tomorrow, and we'll find out what's going to happen. Quick note on if you're a hockey fan tonight, we're back in Raleigh, and it's Vegas and Raleigh, Vegas and Carolina playing tonight in Raleigh, and Stanley Cup playoffs roll on too. So that we'll be able to talk about that. We'll be able to talk about some baseball tomorrow, and what to look forward to for the weekend. So anyway, folks, have a lovely weekend. Lovely, oh man, a lovely Thursday as we get ready for Friday, then the weekend, and we'll be back with you on tomorrow afternoon. Take care. Like I said, take care. Let's. Thank you, Matthew.